deal with people from almost all areas of the business. So marketing, HR, everybody
Mm.
I have to touch base with, because data protection covers a lot of what most of the business does. So I have relationships across the business, and I like it for that, because then I'm a people person. I get to talk to a lot of different people. I get to learn about their challenges, and I get to learn also about the business. I think that we know more about the business than anybody else within the company, because we touch base
Mhm.
with all areas of the business. So I
Right.
think as a DPO, you have to be you have to be a people person, and you have to be willing to connect with people. I think if you did that, you'd be able to succeed. Now, when it comes to my challenges,
Mm.
privacy and data protection is kind of seen as a blocker, rather than because we don't generate revenue
Okay.
for our companies. We're kind of seen as a blocker. So when someone wants to develop something, sometimes people can be reluctant to come to you to
Mm.
um, to ask you questions, because they think that you're going to say no. So
Mm.
part of the challenge is changing attitudes, and then persuading people that actually you're there to help the business meet its priorities, rather than being a blocker to what they want to do. So there's a lot of that. So training and awareness, and constantly just reaching out to people to say, if you have any issues, please feel free to come to me. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to work through this problem with you to deal with the issues. The other challenge is resource. I think every privacy professional I speak to, they're
Mm.
under resourced. So you kind of have to balance balance your priorities, and manage your time well, because there's so many different things coming at you from lots of different directions. And if you're not good at time management,
Mm.
you will fall behind, and then possibly burn out, because there's so much to do. So those are the challenges. I think you asked also top priorities. I think
Yes, indeed.
for me, I think where I am now, I think we're in a good place with regards to implementing data protection requirements. So my top priorities at the moment is really raising awareness and
Mm. Mm.
training, just continuously training members of staff. And then the other one is staying up to date. The things are changing so often, so it's changing, staying up to date with the various regulatory changes and requirements. So yeah, those are, I would say, are the top um, challenges.
That sounds like quite a lot of work, but you seem to enjoy it. So we're glad to hear from you and we're glad to have you on the panel. Mr. Harrison, maybe to turn to you. What does your day look like and what are your challenges? What are your priorities? What do you love and what do you find slightly challenging about your role?
No, thanks, and good afternoon, everyone who's on the call. Yeah, so we are. I'm from Standard Bank Malawi, and it's a very highly regulated industry.
Mm.
So there are some things that we just have to be on our feet and make sure that we are compliant.
Mm.
Um, so perhaps just a slight background to our situation in Malawi. The Data Protection Act has just been passed. I think it's almost a year now. It commenced in June 2024.
Okay.
So as you know, with every act, you are given some period to comply and start the
Okay.
adhering. The regulator is on your feet, and then yeah. So luckily, in our case, the regulator was not ready, and
Mm.
that gave us some ample time to put our houses in order.
Okay.
But my day now begins with ensuring that if there are any issues to do with data protection, now they are just coming in randomly because everyone is not sure of what to do, and we are trying to make sure that everyone understands what this whole data protection or data privacy is all about. So what I'm concerned mostly, or what keeps me busy, is that awareness aspect. So whenever there is someone looking for something, I have to spend time with them. Much as we have done an awareness, a wholesome kind of a bank-wide awareness sessions. We visited branches, we visited certain functions within the bank. to make sure that they understand what this data protection is all about. So that's what keeps me busy. Every now and again, there are projects because the business as usual has to continue. So there are here and there, I do come across projects that are being, initiated, and we have to be part of the advisory when it comes to whether there is any need for DPIS, data privacy impact assessments, um, as well as whenever there are some agreements and contracts being signed with third parties. We also have to come in and advise and look at what the law is saying regarding the particular or specific agreement that we are entering in. So basically, it's like an all over the place situation. But trying
In a
to
good way, I hope.
Exactly. So we're trying to make sure that by the time the regulator starts visiting us for audit, at
Mm.
least some things we have to demonstrate that we have been on the ground and making sure that we are on top of our game. So that's typically what keeps me busy as of now. Thank you.
That's quite interesting. From the answers we've received, I see a trend from the in-house people that most of the work that they do is regulatory and also creating awareness, since data protection is quite new in Africa and pretty much everywhere in the world, really. I see that there's that trend in-house. I just wanted to find out from the consultants on the floor, what would you say are the similarities or differences? How would you say that your work compares or differs from the work of those who are working in-house? Melissa, I will throw this one to you.
Thank you, Princess. Hello to everyone on the call. So, in terms of similarities with what Jacqueline said, that you need to be a people person. You're
Mm,
talking to so many people in different departments. And when it now comes to being a consultant, it's in different organizations as well. At times, I actually feel like my voice is going because I'm talking. And then, so once when we're dealing with that, consultants then have to, my typical day would be starting off with meeting up with clients. So it's different industries. I've got clients in travel, telecoms, legal, and a multinational as well, and medical. So
okay.
there's a lot of context switching that happens because you need to know if you're dealing with travel industry, the laws that are relevant there, and
Mm,
then issues peculiar to that industry as well. So you need to know that, okay, at this moment, I'm talking to this person, I need to wear this hat. And
mm,
then, secondly, there's a lot of drafting of documentation, there's a lot of writing that happens. So, with our context in Zimbabwe, we've got the Cyber and Data Protection Act, which came
okay.
into in 2021, but we
Wow.
actually saw it coming to life in September last year with the statutory instrument 155 of 2024. So then that gave us guidance on licensing, what's required, and the deadlines as well. So now in April, we're at a point where there are a lot of organizations that have registered, a lot of organizations that are also not aware of how to maneuver this new terrain. So
Mm,
we're there to provide guidance, and you'll find that because it's something new, a lot of documentation related to data protection is lacking. So you're starting
mm,
from scratch, but also most importantly, awareness. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, we don't have enough information. What is this all about?" And
mm,
they rush to meet the deadlines. But part of the work is also teaching them as you go. It's not just saying, "Okay, we need to do a privacy policy," but actually
mm,
making them care and understand from a data subject point of view, and then what it means for their organization. So there's also a lot of work that I find myself having to go to speak to different associations
mm,
so that people can actually understand what it means for them. So you see regulators or associations looking for DPOs to actually explain what is this Cyber and Data Protection Act all about. Then at the end of the day, it's now down to studying for in order to improve my own skills and understand the area better, since this is a global thing. Thank you, Princess.
Thank you. Before I throw the question over to Bibi Tayo, our second poll is now up on the screen. Let's attend to participating or responding to the poll while we hear from Bibi Tayo. What would you say, or how would you say that your day, your typical day, compares to that of those who work in house? Bibi Tayo, are you with us? You're on mute, Bibi Tayo. We can't hear you. A kind reminder that our poll is up. Please respond to the poll while we wait. Oh, it seems we have lost Bibi Tayo. Let's attend to the poll in the meantime. We would love to hear from you. The poll is basically, what is your biggest challenge in data protection right now? We would love to hear from the audience. We would like to find out what challenges you are facing. And the results of the poll are up, and we have a tie. It seems that it is a tie between keeping up with changing regulations and implementing technical controls. That is quite interesting, and we would love to hear more from our panel on that. And building up on that, I would just like to throw this question over to Jacqueline, who has, and we are very fortunate on today's panel to have such a diverse panel from different backgrounds and also in different places around the world. And Jacqueline, I think you can agree that you can offer a global perspective. And we would like to just know from you, how do you keep up with changing data protection laws across different regions? And what do you think, in your opinion, is unique about the African context?
Yeah, that's a big question. How?
Indeed.
Yeah, there's so many different regions who are implementing their own data protection regulations. Now, the good thing is, well, what used to be the good thing was that most of them were based on the GDPR. So if you
Mm,
knew the GDPR and you were familiar with the GDPR, you were familiar with the foundations of data protection and what's required of you.
mm,
However, we now have China, who have their own regulations. You have the Middle Eastern countries, and then now you have within the US different states
mm,
bringing uh, passing their own data protection regulations. There's still no federal regulation in the US, but there are lots of different states are now passing their own regulations. So the challenge is, if you and I'm lucky at the moment, the organization that I'm working for doesn't really have clients outside of Europe. Most of our
okay.
clients are within Europe. Although, when you're signing agreements and contracts and taking on suppliers and vendors, majority of them are going to be US based, or even outside of in places like South Africa and Kenya and so on. So I still have to be aware of what they're doing in those regions, because if you're transferring data outside of the UK, you have to
Mm,
do a transfer risk assessment. You have to be aware of the legislation. Are they going to be able to provide the same level of protection to that data
mhm,
as the UK, for example? So I have to be aware of the regulations in those countries. It is challenging to stay on top of all of those things. Um, I I, as I said, I start off my morning just reading newsletters, and I have a list of places that I go to for my information.
mhm,
Um, law firms produce a lot of newsletters and content. They also produce webinars. They also produce YouTube videos. So there's a lot of useful content freely available online,
mm,
and really useful for keeping up to date. The other place that I go to regularly, again, I've signed up also for newsletters. It's AIPP. There's a lot
mhm,
of information on the AIPP website. Daily, you receive uh, newsletters with information is what's happening in what region. Unfortunately, there's not very much at the moment on Africa and the African region, and this is something that I have I have raised and I have written about before. Africa seems to be ignored. Africa and the Middle East, in fact, the global South, I would say, tends to be
Mm,
ignored. When you go to conferences, there's discussions on almost every region apart from regions in the global south. Like
mm,
recently, at the um, IAPP conference in London, they
mm,
had speakers from pretty much everywhere in Europe and the US. We had
mm,
attendees from the Caribbean, we had attendees from India, but I didn't meet one person who was from the African continent. And then on the panels, we had topics on China, we had topics on India, we had topics on everything in Europe and the US. Again, there was not a single panel covering
mm.
Africa. Now, I do, I am aware that if you're going to the IAPP, you have to put together your own panel. So the onus, I guess, is up to us as practitioners on the continent to make sure that our voices are represented on there. But to return to finding information, I don't think there's anything unique about Africa in terms of where you go to find your information. Yes, there's not going to be as much online. For example, within Europe, the data protection authorities provide a lot of guidance on various areas. Now, I've gone online to look for Uganda, for example, I've gone online to have a look at guidance on what the law is, how you implement it, and so on. I haven't been able to find anything. And I know part of that is to do with under resourcing. The DPAs in Africa are not very well resourced. They lack the financial resources, they're not well funded, and they also lack, unfortunately, human resources, people within the offices themselves to implement
Mhm.
the requirements of the regulation. So they don't have the capacity to put out as much information as, for example, their counterparts in Europe and in the US. So you're not going to find as much information out there. However, the law firms within Europe, within the US, even the IAPP do have content. And if you're looking for information to specific African regions, you will find it. It's just not as easily available
Mm.
as within Europe. So I would say lots of newsletters. Sign up to lots of newsletters. If you're looking specifically for African content, sign up to Mondak.
Okay.
They have a lot of law firms writing for them, African law firms writing for them. Attend lots of webinars. Most of them are free, most of them are online, so you can attend from anywhere. And then conferences. If you can attend a conference, you meet a lot of other practitioners who you can then connect with and then share information with. And if you're, having an issue, you don't know how to address it, you could always connect with your contact group and getting the information from there. So there's lots of places where you can get information. And one thing I like about the privacy field is that people are so helpful and people are so friendly, and are always willing to help you with information.
That's amazing. And thank you so much. You bring up a very important point that the onus is on us in Africa to bring these issues to the fore and to make sure that we have our own organizations that are focused on data protection. And that's why we are grateful for the DPO Africa Network. And in fact, our founder, Amaka, will be training next week at the IAPP Global Privacy Summit in Washington, D.C. So we are indeed making strides, and the DPO Africa Network has grown. Our platform on LinkedIn is growing by the day. So there's definitely hope for Africa, and that we will catch up. In as much as we're left out of the conversation, we will eventually catch up on our own. To our audience, if you have any questions, I see already there's some activity in the chat. Please keep it up. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. They will be addressed during the Q&A session towards the end of this session. And to Mr. Harrison, I would just like to ask, how do you operationalize compliance in, you mentioned yourself that you are in the banking sector and it is quite regulated, it is very highly regulated. How would you say then that you operationalize compliance in such a highly regulated field?
Yeah, no, thanks for that question, Princess. Um, so this being a new baby on the block, but with the baby has grown very quickly because now everyone would want to see compliance, and the regulator soon will be is on the lookout with their guidance and regulations. Um, what I do now in terms of operationalizing is to make sure that I ride on the already existing compliance frameworks, right? So there are frameworks that are already in place. We've got our non-financial regulatory or the risk aspect of things in terms of compliance. So I make sure that I also identify some of the stakeholders within those existing frameworks. Within our risk kind of topology and frameworks, we already had an information risk aspect of things. Now, with the coming of the data privacy, it now just complements to the information risk framework. So I'll ride on the example that was it Melissa or Jack gave earlier, to say someone would always want to kind of communicate with the customers on marketing or on some personalized information. They used to do that, right? It's their routine. But now with the law, we have to be cognizant of the implications that might come with, say, sending messages to customers that are not willing to receive those messages. So, as part of the technical aspect in terms of operationalizing this, we've come up with a system that is going to log our customers who have opted in or out in terms of consent. So, consent, I know, is the biggest component of privacy and data protection. What we are looking at is the rights of the data subjects. In this case, we are directly talking about our customers. So our principles that are being guided in the Act, they also reflect and give us some guidance on how we should treat our customers or the data subjects. So the tools that we have developed in-house is to ensure that now we observe the rights of our customers, rights to limitation, rights to processing of further processing of their data, accessing of data that we hold about them, so making sure that our technical side of compliance also responds directly, or it fits into the already existing processes. Not to, we are always cost cautious. We don't have to expand on the processes, but this being a regulatory one, it's mandatory that we have our house in order. So making sure that the operation side of things, technically, in terms of processes as well as people, is in place. It requires now a lot of training on the people side, revising some of the processes, and making sure that our systems also talk in response to what the act or what the law is now demanding. So that's how I'm approaching operationalizing of the Data Protection Act in my space. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That's quite eye-opening. Baby Tayo, are you back with us? Baby Tayo? Okay, it seems he's having some technical difficulties, but I would love to hear from the consultants. And I guess, Melissa, you can be our voice on this one. We would like to know, what are the common compliance gaps that you see, and how do you help organizations or your clients close these gaps?
Thank you, Princess. So, what I've found as one of the biggest compliance gaps has been the lack of documentation. But this extends to even just privacy or data protection. It's actually, even sometimes you'll find there's no main contract with a software provider. Um, Information is being shared without a contract. So you end up having to explain that when we're coming in as privacy consultants, or privacy professionals, we're coming in and we need to complement the
Mm,
documentation you already have.
okay.
So for me to just come and create a data sharing agreement when I can't even look at the main agreement because it doesn't exist,
Mm,
it creates issues. And then you also see, even depending on the maturity of the organizations you're dealing with, but I've been
mm,
surprised to find that even bigger organizations where I'd expect, there is some sort of documentation, it's
mm,
not there. People just know what they're meant to do and they do that. So I'm always at odds to explain that when it comes to compliance, you prove compliance by showing the documentation in writing, not just saying that, oh, we got consent from a
mm,
customer because they said yes. And then the other thing as well is, from what Harrison said, you find that a big gap is the opting out option
yeah.
when it comes to consent. Um, that's not sometimes there are no technical mechanisms in place to put that. And even because of the some small organizations or small
Mm,
businesses might not have the capacity to actually have sophisticated consent mechanisms. So you have to find a way around that. And even when you're now looking at opting out, you'll find that some will do direct marketing without receiving consent in the
mm,
first place. Say, oh,
mm,
we just do it like that. And I think the most important gap that I've seen is the awareness and employee training. So at times, even if there is documentation on privacy policies or procedures, people might not be aware of them. The
mm,
documents are just gathering dust in some cupboard.
yeah.
Uh, but then for organizations, it's then important to know that this then leads to unintentional breaches. And you
Mm,
can't then argue that, oh, ignorance is not a defense, even when it comes to data protection. So procedures need to be there and they need to be followed.
mm. Definitely. You know, we are seeing quite a bit of litigation around the issues, some of the issues that you've brought up, Melissa, especially in countries like Kenya, where it seems their regulating body is really up to speed. So thank you so much for sharing that. I would have loved to hear Baby Tayo's voice on this, but it seems that we have lost him once again. For those who are just joining us and for those who are watching, DPO Africa Network just launched the Data Protection Foundation pilot. And I don't know about you, but I have seen a lot of amazing reviews on LinkedIn and across other social media platforms. And Melissa and Harrison were actually part of the pilot cohort, and we would like to hear from them if they would recommend the course and why. Harrison, maybe if you could take it away.
Yeah, sure. Sometimes you feel like you've read the act, you've read the directives and the guidance from the regulator,
Mm,
um, but you just feel challenged. I mean, like this particular foundation course, which was facilitated by Amaka. I just felt so challenged. I felt like I can navigate through some of the regulations and what the act is saying. But it was quite very eye opening. And
mm,
what I realized is that there is more, and what the regulator will come in and look at is not really on the surface. There is more that the regulator will come, and you'll be amazed at what they are looking at. And this foundation training really just kind of opened my eyes, and the insights and the conversations, very practical conversations with real and live scenarios that we were using in that training in terms of approaching compliance and adhering to the regulation. Thank you.
that's amazing. So you would say that you would recommend the course.
Oh yes, absolutely. It's really a must attend training. Thank you.
Wonderful. Melissa, please chime in briefly and just let us know what you thought about the course.
So I'd say, first of all, calling it a foundation course is selling
Mm,
it short because we learned so many new things that we didn't know before. And I think most importantly, just like on this call, having a diverse group of people. It was a very interactive class, learning about people's different experiences in their own countries. But
Mm,
with the course itself, it also gives context to African countries when we're talking about, doing a PIA in an African country and all of that. So I'd highly recommend it.
wonderful, wonderful. Well, for those who are watching, we have exciting news. For everyone who is a part of this and is a participant in today's webinar, you get 50% off on the foundation course that we have just been mentioning. 50% off is up for grabs simply because you logged in and you signed up and you are a part and a participant in today's webinar. However, this offer only lasts until Sunday, so I would run and not walk to the platform and go sign up. If you have any issues with your payment or with your registration, please send an email to info@dpoafrica.net. That's info@dpoafrica.net. So now moving along with our questioning, and I would like to throw this one to Jackie. I'm sure there are people watching who are aspiring DPOs or existing DPOs or people who are trying to pivot from one profession into data protection. What skills and qualities would you say that you look for when you are hiring or building a data protection team?
Yeah, I think as a data protection officer, you need to have a lot of skills in your toolbox, because you're managing different priorities, you're managing different people, you're managing different challenges. So, as I mentioned earlier on, you have to be a people person. So I think I look first of all for the interpersonal skills. So good communication, you have to be a good communicator. You have to be able to influence, because as a data protection officer, you answer to the highest level of the business. So you have to be able to influence people higher up than you are, the CEOs of and SLTs of your business. So you have to be someone who's confident, and you have to be able to communicate properly. And I think I've said it several times, you have to be someone who enjoys talking to people. So I look for those qualities first of all within a person, and then if they have those qualities, then how do they balance? How do they manage tasks? If you're from a project management background, I think you succeed, you do well, because you have to be able to balance lots of different priorities, and um, uh, follow up with people, chase people. I think I joke with my manager some of the times that I'm a professional chaser up of people because I'm always chasing people to do something or give me something. So you have to be meticulous in chasing people. And then the other thing that I look for is passion. You have to have a passion for the subject area, because
Indeed.
if you have the passion, that's a great foundation for you, because even when all these challenges come up, because you're passionate about people and people's privacy and people's data protection and guarding that, that's a really good foundation. So once you have all of those, then I would look at your level of knowledge. Do you have any skills in the area? Have you done any research? Have you done any qualification? So, doing the foundation course, for example, is a great um, stepping point for someone who's actually looking to pivot into the area. So, and there are lots of other courses available that you can take. So, if you're interested in getting into privacy and data protection, do a lot of reading, attend webinars, go to courses, get that knowledge, so that when you go to an interview, you're prepared, you can answer the questions. So yeah,
Wonderful.
that's what I would recommend.
Mm. I hope our audience is getting this for those who are aspiring to pivot into this area. Mr. Harrison, what would you have to add on what Jackie has already shared?
Yeah, I think when you're looking for this kind of a job, you
Mm,
are already kind of qualified, right? You've got your law degree, you've got your diploma or something that's inclined towards data protection or
Mm.
regulatory kind of alignment. But some of the attributes that Jack just mentioned are very, very critical in executing this role. So, on top of what she has already mentioned, there are some critical soft skills that are very, very relevant, and they
Mm.
might I'm very prime in executing this role. So embracing change, I think she tackled that one in terms of project management and change management. Taking action is one of them. You also have to be proactive. When the regulator comes, they will not question who didn't do what. It's your internal quabbles that are happening within your organization, as well as challenging ideas, because you are in the center of what's happening around. People have
Mm.
got their own ways of doing things. They are used to those ways of doing things. You are now the advisory. You are playing the advisory role in that aspect. So you also have to challenge ideas, check the details. I touched on earlier to say it's the regulator will just not look on the surface. They will
Mm.
even flip through documents and all that. So you also need to be someone who is very eager at looking at the details, articulating information, upholding the standards. We are dealing with the regulator, so you need to observe your integrity and make
Mm.
sure that you are a people's person. You are easy to establish rapport and make sure that the facts are being documented. So it's quite a number of those soft skills and some inherent characters that can really push you into being successful in this role.
Okay, so
Thank you.
basically an all-rounder, a jack of all trades and a professional people chaser. But I am sure
Absolutely.
there is, I'm sure there's someone watching who maybe doesn't want to go the in-house route, but would prefer to maybe go into consulting. Maybe let's hear from our consultants. Baby Tayo, I see you're back with us. Um, what perspective can you add on what your clients are looking for in a data protection consultant? Baby Tayo, you are on mute.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, we can finally hear you.
Okay. So sorry for the network glitch. I missed a
Not
lot
a problem.
already, but basically, flowing from what Harrison just mentioned, um, so there are quite a number of things that clients are looking out for. One, they they need someone to hold their hands to ensure that every bit of regulation and laws are complied with. So
Mm.
as a consultant, you the funny thing about this engagement is you work with different clients, right? So,
Yeah.
and first thing, you have to know your client. So when you know your client, you know the best way to handle a particular client. The way I handle client A might be different from the way I handle client B. So I have
Mm.
um I have clients that are proactive. So okay, you need to do this, you need to comply with this. Okay, there's a new update in the law, you have to do this, and they are they are ready to work. But there are some after imagine after audit last year, and you're reaching out to a particular client this year and he's telling you, oh, I've not done anything, are you not supposed to follow me up? And I was like,
Mm.
so as a consultant, one of the things that you have to look out for is you have to study your client,
Mm.
know who your client is, and then in the course of engaging your client, flowing from what Harrison said earlier, you have to understand how to manage stakeholders. You
Mm.
have you need leadership skills. Even as a data protection officer, you cannot shy away from communication skills. All these things are important. You meet people, you need to manage them well. So people management is very, very important. And then I wouldn't want to speak more about risk management. Maybe some other questions will bring about that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bibitayo. Melissa, as a fellow consultant, what would you like to add to assist someone who would like to go the consulting route?
I think the team has really covered a lot.
Mm,
But what I'll just say, clients, they want someone who will give them confidence that you're actually able to help. Like Bibi Tayo said, they need you to guide them. So you need to be skilled. So first of all, expertise in the relevant laws locally. Obviously, if you have international experience or international certifications, that also helps because you know what the best practices are. Because what I've found in Zimbabwe, I think in general, regulators might not move as fast as we would want to answer our questions. You're waiting for certain guidances, but then you can look at, okay, what are other countries doing so that your client is on the right track already. And I think most importantly, cost is a big thing. You need to give them practical solutions and cost-effective solutions, because, like Jackie said at the beginning, we're not necessarily bringing in revenue as
mm,
data protection. So you need to do things that are cost-effective, even though our work does benefit the business
mm.
long run. But that's just how it is.
Indirectly. Yeah. That's wonderful. For those who are just joining us, on the screen is our offer, 50% off on the DPF course. The offer expires on Sunday, the 20th of April, so I would rush to register. Before we wrap up with our panelists, we have one quiz question. And this is the golden quiz question because the winner gets to walk away with a free pass to the DPF May cohort course. So while you get 50% for attending this webinar, you can get a free pass by answering this question that has just popped up on the screen correctly. I wish you luck and rush to input your answer and stand a chance to win a free pass to the DPF May cohort. It has already been mentioned that the benefits of this are over just incredible. So this definitely is something that will be worth your while. I hope our answers are rolling in and we will be seeing the winner shortly. The time's up and we have our answers to the star quiz question. Oh, wow. We have our poll leaderboard. The results are in, and our winner of the free pass to the DPF May cohort course is Say. I hope I'm saying that right. Congratulations, many congratulations to you, and I hope you have an incredible journey undertaking this course. To claim your prize, Say, please send an email to info@dpoafrica.net. That's info@dpoafrica.net. Thank you so much to everyone who participated. And as we move along, I would just like to find out some final remarks from our panelists here present. What inspired you to enter the field of data protection, and what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out? Let me hear first from Bibi Tayo.
All right, thank you, Princess. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I started career in law, right? I'm trained as a lawyer, and while I was in law school, I was able to um, come to conclude on what I wanted to do with the law degree. So I have much interest in compliance. I mean, helping organizations to comply with the necessary laws and regulation. And also, I am interested in new things. I wasn't so interested in um, the conventional practice of law, right? So in my quest for knowledge, what area is new, what can I do, what is does anything align with I'm also a technical person. Like I love anything technical. I used to develop website at a point. So I was now looking for options. Is there any intersection between law and technology and compliance? So in the course of doing that, I came across technology law. Okay, what is technology law? I realized it comprises of data protection, cybersecurity, intellectual property. I was like, oh, I don't think I want to go technical. Let me just face policy, advocacy, policy analyst. That took me into data protection. But I couldn't also escape information security, although I am not deeply into technical part of it, right? But there's no how you will do data protection and you will not have understanding of information security if you want to do a comprehensive audit like I do. So um that was what brought me into this space. And I'll my advice for anyone out there is that something very very peculiar to a lot of people around me, we don't have conventional growth into this space, right? I started law career in a property law firm, and while I was there, I knew that I needed something that would prepare me to the next phase of my career. I started reading. That was when I had opportunity for the course in a university sponsored by Meta on data protection. I was doing that course while I was in a property law firm. So my advice to someone out there, a lot of people don't know how to transit. Yes. So I was learning, I was taking courses like everyone had said, networking with people, attending events, and then volunteerism. I was a very, very enthusiast when I was so interested in volunteering for organizations, and that was what set the pace for me, and it helped me to easily transition into the next phase. So I think I want to stop here. No one, most people around doesn't don't have conventional growth into this space. You have to hone it. You have to be intentional about it. Go for courses, search for opportunities. I'm always on LinkedIn. Any opportunity. So with that, you will be able to position yourself and get grounded in the space. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Bibi Tayo. Perhaps let's hear from Jackie. What inspired you to end up in this field? And what advice do you have for someone who is just starting out?
So I actually wanted to do data protection from 2014 before
Oh.
the GDPR came into effect. So this is what I was still working at Thomson Reuters. I had been doing product management for about 8 years, and I felt that I wasn't really learning anything new after 8 years. So I went to the then chief privacy officer and said to her, I want to, come and work, do an internship, sort of, with your team for, I don't know, 2 days a week if I can. And she she turned around and said to me, "Data protection's really dry. There's no work.
Little
there's
did
no
she
work.
know.
There's no work. Go and speak to the financial compliance team. They have a lot of work. It's a growing area." So okay, I listened to her and I went and I then got into financial compliance. And for me, financial compliance is like watching paint dry. It's just so boring. I didn't enjoy it at all. So in 2017, I was in between jobs, had time on my hands, and I found a course online by Groningen University. It's a free course. You didn't get a certificate, but you actually did get to do the course like someone who was studying for it. So they had everything on the course. So it was a data protection course, and this was just before the GDPR came into force. So I went and did that course, and I was like, "Oh my God, I really should have, listened to my instincts from the beginning because this is what I want to do." Because I'm very passionate about protecting people's rights and privacy. I'm a private person myself. I hate it when you have organizations tracking your every movement, getting information that they don't need. On getting information on you that they don't need, and then all the surveillance that governments and companies do, and then selling your data to goodness knows who to do goodness knows what with. For me, I find all of that very invasive. And because I want to protect other people's personal data, I want to raise awareness. I talk to anybody who hear me about privacy and data protection and about the need to give as little information as you can to companies out there, because at the end of the day, they're benefiting and making money from your data. You're not. And
Mm,
they're tracking your every movement. So for me, it was a kind of it was doing what I feel passionate about. And so
mm,
that's for me, I guess that's why it doesn't feel like a job. I feel like I'm doing something that I enjoy, something that I'm passionate about, and
yeah,
someone's actually paying me for it. And to anybody who wants to get into this field, I would say you don't need a law degree.
mm,
You just need the skills that I mentioned earlier on, and a passion for the field. If you have that, and then you do all the courses, free courses that are out there. Yes, you can do paid courses, but I would say start off with the free courses, because the paid courses are not exactly cheap. There are lots
mm.
of free courses out there. If you want to get in touch with me, I can send you LinkedIn on LinkedIn, I can send you links to lots of different courses that you can do that will give you the foundation, and then network with people, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to give you the jobs. They're the
Mm.
ones that know people who already who may be recruiting. So network, increase your network, and network with the right people. So that's the advice that I would give.
That is incredible. You can really tell from the way she speaks that Jackie is really passionate about this subject. And our next quiz happens to be the prize for our next quiz, rather, happens to be a mentorship session with Jackie. So you might have missed the first quiz, but you definitely do not want to miss this one. Both are equally great. So let me pass on the mic to Harrison to just briefly give us some advice for those who are trying to penetrate the field and how they can start out.
Thanks, Princess. So mine is actually a very interesting journey because I'm a very technical person. So I've got my background in IT, and just as Jackie mentioned, you don't really need a, legal kind of qualifications. And with me, I self-taught most of the stuff. The LinkedIn, LinkedIn Learning, and some internal kind of trainings within the bank that I also undertook. But how I landed the DPO role was basically the transitioning and the coming in of the act, the legality of the act itself, and as a directive, from our group, because I do head the data office at Standard Bank. So the closest, much as compliance is there, the closest is the head of data, and to understand this and to understand the implications. How are we using data? When it comes to privacy by design, who is that person who can quickly grasp some of these things, and understanding the terminologies and the technology behind some of these things. And that's why it was much easier for me to come up with a consent management system, which was never there, but we had to create one and come up with it. So the technical, backgrounds, I've got a data science, master's, MBA. So the cross functional experience, which talks into the stakeholder management, as well as making yourself available,
Mm,
and showcasing your technical capabilities as well. So for someone who is aspiring, for us in Malawi, now that it's a law, it's mandatory. Most of the organizations will be forced, to comply. Therefore, we don't have a choice in most of the industries, in most of the organizations, but to comply. So the trainings, the available trainings, there are a lot of free trainings around where one can, grasp the knowledge, as well as networking, just as Jackie has mentioned. And we are always also available to mentor some of the aspiring, candidates who want to take this route. Thank you
mm.
so much, Princess. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we hear from Melissa, maybe get the question on the screen so that we try and save a bit of time. Let's have the question on the screen. Let's attempt the question while we hear from Melissa what practical advice we can get from her and what inspired her to end up in this field.
Thank you, Princess. So I've got a legal background, and I did a master's in entrepreneurship with a technology pathway. So doing that master's actually made me realize that I had a strong interest in technology, and that's the space I wanted to get into. So I started looking at cybersecurity and saying, oh, I want to get into cybersecurity. But I realized it's so broad. Saying cybersecurity means so many things. So the first thing is do your research and really dig deeper and be specific.
Mm,
And then after that, I did a certification with ISC squared. It's just like a foundation course, which was free, cybersecurity. So I think it's important to do some of those courses to actually see is that something that you really want to do,
mm,
and learn what does it actually mean, what does it entail. Because before that, I was going to transition into tech, and I signed up for the CompTIA Network Plus,
mhm,
and it would take me hours reading one paragraph, trying to understand these technical things until I got to a point where I realized that even if I was going to go and write the exam, I was
mm,
going to fail because I just didn't get it. So I lost money there. So I'd encourage people to do a lot of the free courses like Jackie emphasized, and then you pay for the thing that you actually um, know, okay, for sure, I want to do this. Um, Dropping out of the Network Plus made me then realize that, okay, I need to do something that's more aligned with my skills, with my
mhm.
legal background, policy, policy making, writing, and all of that. And then that's how I ended up here. So that's my journey.
What an
Thank you.
incredible journey. Thank you so much for sharing, Melissa. The results of our quiz are in. Oh wow. We had a lot of participants this time around, and the ultimate winner is Larry Mabena. Congratulations to you, Larry. Many, many congratulations. Larry gets to have a mentorship session with Jackie. Larry, please send an email to info@dpoafrica.net. That's info@dpoafrica.net. Congratulations once again, Larry. Now we are going to open up the floor to questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. We have had a few that have been coming in during the course of during the course of this session. We've had some questions that have come into the chat, or if you feel if you are comfortable, you may raise your hand so that we bring you up on the stage and you can go ahead and ask your question. Just looking through the chat to see if we have any questions that our panelists can attend to in the meantime. Okay, we have a question here for Leanne. From Leanne, she says, my question is for Princess. How does one join the data protection field in Botswana? Well, typically I would ask the panelists to answer, but I've been put on the spot. And I think I would just say from everything that has been highlighted by our panelists already, the path is pretty much the same. Take the courses, be available, put yourself out there, learn from as many people as you can, connect with people from all over the world. We're here with Jackie, who's in the UK, Mr. Harrison in Malawi, Melissa in Zimbabwe, Bibitaria in Nigeria. Connect with as many people as you can and try to learn as much as you can. We have a question also. Okay, this is an invitation to connect from Vusi, who is inviting us to connect on LinkedIn. Please share your link and we will all connect after this. I see a request from Cookie to Jacqueline. She's requesting that Jackie shares the free courses. That would be great. So maybe Jackie, if you could just elaborate how they can access the free courses that you mentioned.
Sure. So the best way is really just send me an invite on LinkedIn, if you're interested in the free courses, and then I'll compile a list and then just send it to everybody who's been in touch.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Janice was asking, which university is Jackie saying she took the data protection course from?
Right. So it's a platform called Open Learn. They do a lot of free courses in a lot of different areas. So if you just do a Google search for Open Learn, you'll be able to find it, and then within that, then just search for data protection, and then it brings up all the various data protection courses. And the one that I did was from a Dutch university called Groningen. So that's Gronigen.
Thank you so much. I hope we all got that. We also have another comment slash question. It goes, "Hello, Melissa. Glad to see that you're the director of research and publication for the DPO Africa Network. Actually, research in the field of data protection is a field that I am deeply interested in. In fact, my undergraduate long essay focused on appraising the legal and institutional framework for data protection in Nigeria. I realized a lot and I am amazed by how the system works. Moving forward, I wonder if you would have any advice for me."
So my advice would be to keep writing, and keep on the lookout for any call of papers. Last year, I responded to a call of papers from the Privacy Symposium Africa, and I wrote a paper on digital banking, and data protection. And I submitted my paper and ended up winning an award. My paper came first. So that way, you find that when you're doing this kind of research, you also learn a lot through the process by interviewing people in the industry. So I'll just say keep writing, and also get in touch on LinkedIn, please.
Thank you so much for sharing, Melissa. I do not see any further questions. So maybe before we wrap up, I would like to just bring a few announcements to our attention. The first one is that we would like to hear from you, aspiring DPOs. Please fill out the survey for aspiring DPOs. Scan the QR code to complete the survey. A link to the same survey has been shared in the chat. So we would love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts. And similarly, for practicing DPOs, there is a survey that is going out. If you're a practicing DPO or a privacy professional, please scan the QR code or access the link in the chat to complete the survey. We also have the Data Protection Foundation course for the month of May. Congratulations once again to Sei, who has won the prize and will be able to join this cohort for free. That will be beginning on the 7th of May. A quick reminder for everyone that is participating in today's webinar, you automatically get 50% off. The code to redeem your 50% offer is DPIP50. So that's a DPIP 50. Reminder, the offer is only available till Sunday, so please go and register in your numbers. If you have any issues with registration or payment, please shoot us an email at info@dpoafrica.net. That's info@dpoafrica.net. And for the volunteers who are watching, an announcement for you is that there will be a meeting on the 30th of April. Please save the date. There will also be another Data Protection in Practice webinar, which will be taking place on the 14th of May. We are looking forward to more eye opening insights from different stakeholders, from people from all over Africa and indeed the world. So if you would like to take part, please indicate your interest by email. We are also on track with our projections for the year. as the DPO Africa Network, which is quite exciting. The aim for this month was to get partners and sponsors to amplify the work that is done and the meaningful impact that the DPO Africa Network is having throughout the continent. So if you would like to partner with DPO Africa Network, please shoot us an email to indicate your interest. Thank you so much to everyone who has participated. I'm sure we have all learned a lot, and we look forward to hearing from and seeing each other on social media. Let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's connect and talk and grow this community as big and as wide as it can grow. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you. Goodbye.